Federal Indian Affairs Minister Bernard Valcourt announced today that he is putting the contentious Bill C-33 First Nations Education Act on hold. This news comes in the wake of the resignation of AFN National Chief Shawn Atleo this past Friday. Valcourt's announcement came while Grand Chief Mike Delisle was meeting with the Quebec's newly appointed Native Affairs Minister, Geoff Kelley. We asked the Grand Chief to update the community on all of these important issues.
Let's first talk about the stepping down of Shawn Atleo. You saw it coming.
Not surprised at all. I think he had either no choice but to do that or rescind his support for the First Nation Control of First Nation Education Act, the full February 7th announcement, the executive of AFN being kept in the dark, the Chiefs Committee on Education Working Group being kept in the dark. His regional chief, Morley Gugu out of Nova Scotia, was the chair of that, had no indication. Massive demonstration across the country, if not physical, at least political. I took part last week in a national, I'll call it, press conference from 5 different organizations across the country to say this is no good for us. So everything was pointing in that direction, so absolutely not surprised. I believe that based on what I've heard from people in BC, and when I talk about people, I'm talking about regional chiefs, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, they're going to have to put out a statement that says we reject Minister Valcourt's previous announcement with then National Chief. They're going to be appointing somebody interim, whether that happens today or in the coming days, very soon. I believe that's the next step, because anything short of that, everyone's gearing up, preparing for whether it be national demonstrations on Parliament Hill, things that were said in the press conference at the Parliamentary Press Corps last week. They're not prepared to do that, and I'm pleased finally that Valcourt is taking notice, unfortunately due to the AFN chief stepping down, but there's going to be some, I think, positive movement. I think collective message has been delivered, and the federal government is now trying to take some position on that. My focus and goal, I think, will be more regionally to look at Assembly of First Nations, Quebec and Labrador. Several years ago, not long after taking this seat, I encouraged the chiefs to separate themselves from the national body and look at Quebec and Labrador issues solely and specifically because no one listens to us at the national level, whether it be at AFN or through the federal government at that time. Now I think is a perfect time to reposition that. We've talked about it briefly last week at the Special Chiefs Assembly on education in Ottawa. We'll see what happens, because there's a couple of meetings that are being set up now, one which is in June, one probably before the end of the month. It'll probably be called by Ghislain Picard before the end of the month in lieu of what's happening in Ottawa and at the AFN National Office. So timing is there, and I'm glad to see that the federal government and specifically Minister Valcourt are finally taking notice and paying attention to what's happening, not only in Quebec, not only in Kahnawake, but across the country.
You met with Aboriginal Affairs Minister Geoff. Kelley. Tell us about it.
I think the meeting went very well. Spoke for a couple of hours. We've been in contact with each other since his re-election and then appointment to Aboriginal Affairs provincially. So we're very glad. I've already made statements to that effect. So he agreed to meet with me today for lunch. Several issues, 2 outstanding: the hospital and some of its labor hangovers from previous, including Liberal hangovers from when they were there as well. Issues, education. We're very enthusiastic and pleased that Dr. Yves Bolduc, our old friend from the Health Ministry, who helped groundbreak at the ceremony of the hospital years ago, is the Education Minister. We spoke at length about that, hoping to get Quebec on side provincially, governmentally, in opposition to the federal bill. Many other issues as well that we'll have to discuss. I think most importantly to talk about, let's deal with the bureaucracy separately and move politically in the next couple of years. They have a majority, there's ability to move. We're looking for some direction forward.